Hello everyone, we are live and welcome to Protected Trust Live. We are doing kind of a special one today. We have three guests on the panel. Ingram and Cindy, who everyone knows and loves, CEO of Protected Trust, fan favorite. And joining us for the first time on the panel, but not the first time on video, is Cindy, one of our solutions consultants.
Hello.
And so today's topic is, we've been doing the pillars. The 5 pillars, the 6 pillars, and we've been focused on business, private businesses and how that, they can make themselves more productive, more secure. But we haven't really talked about the government. And today I thought it'd be a good time to talk about the government cloud community, also known as GCC. I just don't know where to start. Cindy, do you want to kind of give us a?
I guess the thing is, what is it, right?
Right.
Or why are we talking about it?
Yeah. Why are we talking about it?
There are many governmental agencies, not only just in the state of Florida, but nationwide, that are either thinking about moving to the Office 365 platform or are planning to. A lot of them are basically hosting their email internally or through another provider. They're ready to make that move to the cloud, but they're not quite sure how to get started. This is, not necessarily a simple process, although we make it easy. But there are steps that need to be taken in order to move, from an internal platform to the cloud. A lot of the government agencies are familiar with purchasing their Office licenses directly through either an enterprise vendor or from Microsoft directly. And they can still do that. However, they really need assistance in order to ensure that as they move to the cloud, governments have different compliance regulations, and even different government entities have different government regulations that they need to follow as well. And so really, to make that move in a compliant and a secure way, they really are kind of wondering how to get started. And so today we wanted to talk a little bit about that so that we can maybe address some questions and show them, give them more information on how to get started with that process.
We did a survey. We work with government clients for about 15 or more years, and we just recently did a survey last fall of just inventorying the state of Florida government clients, and we found that about a third of them have already made a move to Office 365 or to Office 365 government. And that's a very important distinction is that Microsoft has created these special versions of Microsoft 365 that are isolated from the normal public version of 365 that are designed just for government. And the reason why is because government has special regulations, special compliance needs, and they need to be different than what the public cloud gets. So that's what we want to talk a little bit more about.
So Ingram, the licensing is different, but also the data centers where the information is stored are also separate. And Microsoft has come out with the GCC.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about
Sure.
that?
Yeah, I can do that. On the screen here is a map of, Microsoft has data centers all across the country, but they have these very special data centers that are dedicated just for government cloud. Mm-hmm. And they call it GCC, Government Community Cloud, to signify that it's different. And they also have a GCC High, which is designed to be a cloud that's for even higher levels of government, which are probably more federal government or contractors that are working with federal agencies and things like that. And then they have DoD regulations as well, which are related to, say, the FBI, for example, is moving to 365. And so they would go to a level of DoD or something like that. But in general, Microsoft has several compliance regulations standards in the normal public version, but in the United States, they have very specific, we're familiar with HIPAA and things like that. But in the GCC, they have things called FedRAMP or CJIS for Criminal Justice Information Systems, which is a department of the FBI. And it may be interesting to kind of say why CJIS is such a big deal, right? Because something like 2/3 or more than 2/3 of all government entities have some sort of law enforcement inside them. So if you're a city, you have a police department, or if you're a county, you have a sheriff's department. Even the court systems deal with certain kind of law enforcement data. And so I think it's important to maybe say what is this data, right, that they're trying to protect.
Right.
Basically, criminal background information. Any information involving someone's criminal background, personal information, would be considered CG, criminal justice information. And then CJIS is a criminal justice information system. And
which is really a department of the FBI. It's the largest department of the FBI, and the FBI has like terrorist activity or criminal behavior or organized crime, and they submit this information to the states through a state agency. And in the case in Florida, we have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, and then the FDLE disseminates it to the county sheriffs, and the county sheriffs may disseminate it again to the local police departments. And so that information, not only does the federal government provide information, but even the state may, like the state of Florida may have criminal information they may want to disseminate that maybe the federal government doesn't have. And so there may be extra stuff inside the data that's being sent around the state. So anyway, while all this data has to be protected, and it's very important that when you're dealing with a government agency, they're making sure that this information is being kept secure.
Exactly. And it's also important as the government agencies are working with providers or vendors assisting them with this particular project, that they are working with someone that has the authority to assist them, that has the proper backgrounds of security. If you are a vendor that is working with a government agency and there's any CG information that would be involved, it's important that they actually have security background checks. We actually went through that process here at Protected Trust, so all of our employees have gone through the CG criminal background check, the fingerprinting, and also their security training that must be taken in order to be able to assist with these types of projects.
That's right.
Yeah, every single person in the organization.
From the top down all the way to the bottom.
Yeah,
everyone,
right.
Everyone.
So every single one of us has gone through it. Who
You've taken it, right, Stephen?
Oh, yeah. What? But yeah, it's when you think about not knowing anything about Office 365 and you're a private business and what you have to do to get it done, it seems overwhelming. But to do it for GCC, Microsoft has taken a lot of steps to make sure that every one of their servers and all the people who are involved with those servers have the correct credentials. And I think that's happening in Florida right now too.
Yeah. There's a little wrinkle in Florida. There's 38 something states that have been approved to work with Microsoft on the GCC cloud with CJIS information. And that represents about 80% of law enforcement in the United States are able to get onto 365. With Florida, the FDLE is still auditing everything with Microsoft. They've gone through the data centers, completed the audits there, but there's some extra security background checks that have to be done on Microsoft employees that the City of Miami Police Department has taken on as the lead agency to criminally background check Microsoft employees and then set up a program where once they have this system in place that all other agencies in Florida could hop onto. But it doesn't mean that you can't get on 365 today if you're a government agency, especially if you deal with CJIS information or a sheriff or a police department, is that they're handling this information already today, is that they have a really strong email policy or email or a CJIS policy that says what's the proper use to how to handle this information. And they already have systems in place, and the FDLE has provided some of these systems that allow them to communicate this CG information around, and they don't have to use the public cloud. But once all this stuff has been certified, regulated, and all that stuff, they'll be able to use more benefits out of 365 if they want to use file sharing or email collaboration and these tools where it'll help protect that information as well. So other states have already adopted it. The state of Florida is pretty close to it, but it doesn't mean that if you're a state agency in Florida that you can't do it. You can go ahead and do it. It's just that you have to have a little more policy in place.
We actually got a question before this live stream saying, is this something that I can do today? And the answer is we've been doing it.
Yes.
Yes. So of course.
Yeah, and especially that particular client that wrote in today is a government contractor. And in fact, they're one of that's very involved with all at a federal level. But yes, and they'd be considered a contractor to government. And even contractors can get on GCC as well. In fact, we're working with several contractors right now to help them get them vetted and authorized. There's a vetting process we'll take them through so that they can get authorized and sponsored to get into these systems. And likewise, we've done the same thing. We've been vetted and sponsored by certain agencies to allow us to have access to, from the Microsoft side and from the government side.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Makes sense to me. I think the overall theme is if you got a question about GCC, don't talk to me. Talk to Cindy. And Cindy, your contact information is on our website. So I don't think anyone would have trouble getting
Steve, there is a slide right here if you want to pull this up. But just to give you an idea is that there are the 3 versions of GCC. But most of the clients are going to fall within this area. This is the Government Community Cloud. And CGIS is what we've been talking mainly about, but there are other regulations that are available in GCC. You know, there may be reasons to certain IRS or something like that, or FedRAMP. A lot of federal agencies need to be FedRAMP moderate. And then we do have some contractors that we work with that are at this level. And these are typically federal contractors that are working with like certain branches of government that need to have this, like the DFARS certification. And DFARS is something that if you're dealing with, I don't know, there's these regulations that say if you're working with the government, you have a contract with them, you must be DFARS certified as of January. And so as long as the organization has a plan, they can go ahead and get on GCC High and then say they're working to get the DFARS certification.
So not just GCC, but a totally separate set of servers with regulations called GCC High.
Yes, and I don't know if I have a slide. Yeah, this slide here is a little bit more kind of like how it's designed, but government cloud is this area here, and GCC is a subset of or a separate instance of 365. But then they even have this whole other segment which is completely isolated. There are still some sharing of the Active Directory in the public version, but all of this has been vetted through the different channels and the different like state agencies, the federal agencies, the compliance agency regulations that you know, make sure that Microsoft has done all these different things correctly.
And there's things that need to be done on the back end in order for the agency. Just because, you know, they acquire the licensing for GCC doesn't mean that they're going to automatically be authorized to allow their data to be stored in the cloud within the GCC. It has to be approved by Microsoft. So that's why it's really important for the agencies to work with someone that has experience in this area. Otherwise, their licenses might end up in the public, and that's not really where they want them to be.
And we've seen that before. We've seen clients that think they have the right licensing, and they may have been sold the right licensing, but you go to check it, it's actually still not provisioned in the right spot. So we've got that experience to do that. Additionally is that even though you set all the stuff and you have the right license, doesn't mean that you've set it up correctly or you're following the proper guidelines of how to set these up or set the correct policies. And so in setting these controls in place, we have a very you know, experience of guidelines that we've gone through to how the best practices of ways to set these things up. So to further help the security aspects of setting all the government up.
Yeah, and I've seen it, and there's a ton of options to choose from. So unless you're being guided by someone who's done it before, I can see where it could be very overwhelming.
It's going back to climbing the mountain, right? It's
right,
like,
you need that guru.
You need the guru to get you there.
Well, was there anything else on the slide deck?
If you want to pop on this one really quick, this is a more technical slide, but to me, it was helpful for me to understand whether the different silos of GCC, and all of these are basically tell you inside of each of the commercial cloud is all the different services. Like you have OneDrive and you have Skype and Exchange, and so what these columns are showing is what is available in each of the versions of Microsoft 365. So in the 365 GCC, which is the one we've been talking about, most of the services that they have in their normal 365 are all available in the GCC version. In fact, every day there's new things that are happening. And you can see how Teams is not necessarily something that's actually in GCC yet, and it's expected to be here, well, actually this quarter. And I think even now it may already be there now, but they're continually adding more and more services that have been vetted. And likewise with High, there's you can still there's some things that are still missing, but like Teams, for example, but they're moving very quickly to get these in the system as quickly as possible.
Yeah, this it looks so complicated when you look through all these things, but again, it's being filtered through someone like Cindy and of course you, who know exactly what it means and can get people who basically the sticklers are like, well, have they thought about this thing? It's like,
Right.
oh yeah, of course they have. It's like, and here's how they handle it. So Microsoft's done a great job of working with the government or previous governments and getting it configured so that there's no gotchas. Because that's the last thing we want is for one little thing to be missing.
And the additional security that Microsoft's added, just even over the last few years, really is beneficial to the agencies. With the advanced threat protection that's available now to scan the messages before they're delivered to the mailboxes, really helps protect the organizations if they click on links, within messages. It can protect the system if it is, a bad site. And then there's additional security that can be added. There's data loss prevention policies. If they are an agency that deals with CG, they can establish policies there within data loss prevention to help avoid any data loss, with CG information being sent via email. So there's just a lot of things that Microsoft has put into place that the agencies really don't need to wait. They can start planning their move now and, just make sure you work with someone that is experienced in that area.
Yeah, right. If they're budgeting right now, it's a good time to start looking at this stuff now. If they're budgeting start in the fall, it's good to start looking at it now, kind of figure out what's going to take to get them up there. How long it would take to migrate it. We're really good at the migrations too. We can migrate a client that they can't even tell they're being migrated. It's like it just is so seamless. But all that, there's a lot of prep work that goes in to get that set up in that way, so it's just done simply like that.
Government agencies are also usually on a very tight budget. And so one of the things I like about Microsoft too is the packages are so comprehensive. There's so many different applications that come with Office 365 now that what they're finding is they can eliminate applications that they're paying separately for because it's included in their Office 365 license. The spam filter, the anti-threat detection. Now they'll have Skype for Business, so they can get rid of GoToMeeting applications and things like that they may not need any longer. Teams, Planner. There's so many different applications that come with the Office 365 that it really is great to do an assessment and look at all of the applications that you have in place now, and then take a look at what can be replaced whenever you do move to Office 365, because I think you'll find that there's a lot of things that you can save in the long run with.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and it makes me think about, a lot of this is email focused, at least in my mind, but Microsoft covers all the bases. So if you're worried about someone, data loss prevention with SharePoint or OneDrive even, well, they've set it up so that it covers those tracks, and I think Teams is even there too.
We're emailing less because we have Teams.
I love Teams. It's changed the way we work here.
Yeah, we only use Outlook for external messages.
Yeah,
now.
so much easier.
It's a whole lot easier. People actually read your messages now. Any final thoughts?
You can do this now. You can do this today. You start it now. Start planning it now. In the state of Florida, you don't have to wait. You can get moving now. If you already have 365, we can take a look at it and make sure you're doing the best practices, making sure you're doing the right checklists. We can remediate the current tenants they may have.
That's a good point too, because if they already have, I already have Office 365 licenses, I have the Office suite, if you were looking to seek our services, we can become partner of record and upgrade existing licenses. You're not paying above and beyond the licenses you have currently. We can simply modify what you have to add email and any other applications that you need.
Yeah, if I could circle back, I wanted to remember this, but now I'm remembering it now. When you talked about seamlessly migrating people, because the worst is when you have to stop an entire day and you have to have assign your tech team to go around to different computers and making sure everyone has the right things installed. But with us, it's restart Outlook or restart your computer.
It makes us look bad because it makes it look like we did nothing. It's so easy for them to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What did you do?" Or it's like, "You didn't do anything." No, it's been moved.
No, we told you to restart.
Yeah.
You restarted.
Yeah.
But all that work's done by our amazing team.
Yeah,
on the back end.
we've had years of
incredible.
experience of doing this, and a lot of good people.
All the
working
way
on this
from
stuff.
the project management to the engineers who actually flip the switches. But Anyway, just a great experience, and I think if any of our clients talk to each other, we'll,
Yeah, and we're very committed on this. I mean, compliance and security is the top of the pyramid for us. It's one of the most important things for us because every organization touches some sort of compliance or regulation, and to have that expertise around it is we're really committed of getting all of our employees CJIS certified, if you call that a word, or CJIS aware, or CJIS training.
Yeah.
HIPAA. There's other certifications we've done. It's like all those things are so important to us because when we come to a client that has these questions, we understand it.
Cindy, any final thoughts? You think we covered it?
I think you covered it. And Ingrid's right, though. We've been working with government agencies since the beginning of the company, right?
We have. That's
Starting
how it
with-
got started.
Have you talked about that before on the live streams?
I haven't. So kind of how we got started in this whole business is, my prior life I had an internet provider, but when we started doing hosting email for companies, one of the first clients that we received was I got a call during the second Gulf War invasion to set up the email system for the provisional government of Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And so got a call from the Pentagon, and the Pentagon asked if we could do this and set up for 38 ministries in the government of Iraq. So the Pentagon was my client for a few months, and then it was handed over to the Bank of Iraq and the new provisional government, and they became our client. And we helped get them all on their feet, and we ran that all from our facilities here. Been a Microsoft partner for almost 20 years or more, and we helped build it and set it all up. And that really got us into government contractors, and then they got us into like the other government agencies, state, sheriffs, law enforcement, and really we got an expertise around encryption, around all the compliance regulations. So we have a long history of understanding their needs. And when you're dealing with a government, especially like a city or a court, we've had our hands in some of the more nuances of their law enforcement, which is they're typically always handling something with law enforcement. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Or joining me today. This has been very enlightening for just for my sake, and I just touched my mic. But yeah, I think that this.
You took the CJIS testing? What did you think about it?
I think that there's a lot of things that people do that they don't realize is a violation. Mm-hmm. And so, taking that exam, well, first of all, going through the training makes you realize, and then finalizing in the exam makes you realize that you need to be more secure than you actually are.
What'd you score?
100%.
Good job. Good job.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you all for watching. If you like our content, please click the like button and click subscribe if you'd like to be notified the next time we do a live stream or a video. And thank you to our clients who make these live streams possible. Thank you.
Thank you.